writing, and I haven't been waiting for a response. I've actually been waiting for validation, you know? I've been waiting for somebody to say, you know, you've got great writing capability, what you've got to offer is brilliant, you matter, your story matters, your journey matters, these other women's stories who were within this book, their stories matter.
Drive. So what I started to do, I started to just like buy and sell domain names when the internet was like literally you had to plug it into your wall. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It's so easy because you're chasing this dream and this vision that you have, and to feel as though you need to be working all hours of the day. And yes, there are some days where you need to push yourself that little bit harder, but you really need, if you haven't got your health and your well-being, you haven't got any business. So
hello and welcome back to another episode of She's the Boss Female Entrepreneur Stories, where I'm joined by phenomenal women who run their own businesses. If you haven't already done so, please make sure you click that subscribe or follow button so that you never miss out when I release a new interview. And if you're not already following me on social media, I'm on LinkedIn as DANIELLA GENAS. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at She's the Boss INTL. So make sure that you get following. Today, I am joined by Leanne Adu, who is the founder of Leave It With Lava. Hi, Leanne. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hello. How are you doing?
Flies flying in my face. Leave It With Lava. I love the name. Tell us more about what the business is and how you were inspired to start it, and where did the name come from?
Yeah, thank you. So I have been a PA for my whole entire life. I didn't go to university, didn't do college really. I went to sixth form for a few weeks before I went and got a job in an office. And I've always been admin based, office based, reception. I always wanted to be a PA, which is quite a strange career, I think. People don't tend to want to go down that route, but then they often find themselves falling into it, whereas I deliberately chose to work in an office and to be an administrator. And I worked for a few companies as a receptionist. I tried to move up the ladder, but I wasn't able to. And then I ended up being in HR for a little while. I got released from that role quite suddenly and ended up temping. And when I temped, I was like, right, this is it. Now is my chance. I want to be a PA. I've been saying it for years. Let's go. So when I went to temp agencies, I said, look, I want to do PA roles. And that was how I started. I worked for the Arts Council for 2 years. It was a 2-month temp contract, and we just kept extending it. And that was my first proper PA role as a PA to the HR director. So it was eye-opening because I was working with one director and then a team of 8. And before that, I'd just been doing reception roles and HR roles. So it was really, really thrown into the deep end. But I enjoyed it, kept doing it, and then moved onwards and upwards. I was a PA for about 10 years, and in 2013 I won an award. I won PA of the Year, which was awesome. It was at the time, it was definitely the biggest award going for PAs, and most people kind of think, oh, PAs win awards, and yeah, we do. So, well, I do anyway.
I think you should do. PAs do a great job.
Yeah, I think that often when people have these preconceived ideas of what a PA does, it's like makes a tea, does types of letters, but actually it can be a lot more than that. It's a lot more firefighting. Oftentimes I was doing the job of 3 people rather than just 1. So it's really, really involved, and I really, really enjoy it. And then I had a baby a couple of years ago, and in the back of my head, I knew that I wanted to start my own business, but I knew that I still wanted to be a PA. So it made sense to start up my own virtual PA organisation, but not quite had the guts to do it until I was on maternity leave. And realised that I didn't want to go back to an office job. I had quite bad postnatal depression, and the thought of going back to work and into a toxic office environment, because most of them are, I find, just didn't fill me with joy at all. So I realised that when I quit my job, which is what I did, I quit my previous job, I realised I had some money left over. I was like, now is the time. Now is, if I'm going to do it while the baby is small, whilst I've almost got this fresh start, let's do it. I went back to work in an office part-time, but that to me was my side hustle whilst I built the business. Yeah. So going back to work in this new office felt a bit more like a side hustle rather than a real job. It was just to get me through it. So I did that for about a year or so. And then I realised that I'd set myself some goals and I'd reach those goals. I was like, yes, this is it. If I'm going to do it, now is the time, full time, all in. So that's what I did.
And when was that?
That was in... So I set myself these goals in June 2019. I went to a conference. I went to a Sweat Life Festival with Leanne, and we had some goal setting seminars. And I decided then that I needed to have a certain amount of clients, a certain amount of money in the bank, and 3 months bringing in a set amount of income. And if I could do that, then it was time to quit the job. And then I quit the job in August, handed in my notice, worked a 3-month notice period, and then went full time in November last year.
Awesome. Well done to you. It's so interesting because there's a lot of women that I speak to, obviously, during these interviews who ended up starting their businesses either in the middle of or just after maternity leave. It's like having a baby really does make you take stock of the direction that you're taking in life. However, I think you're the first person who I've spoken to who said that decision came whilst you were also in or experiencing postnatal depression. And I suppose for me, it's interesting because I would think if you're, I suppose, in the depths of postnatal depression, the idea of starting a business, in my head, it doesn't feel like a logical progression because it's a big thing to do. So how did I don't even know what the question is really, but well done to you, number one. And number two, how did you kind of work out the fact that actually this is not what I want to do, but I can do this even though I'm in this space? I suppose that's the question.
If I'm brutally honest, I shouldn't have done it. I wasn't ready. I wasn't well. It took its toll on me. And I was on medication and it really, really did affect my health. But equally, I knew I couldn't go back to the job that I was doing before. That I was signed off work during pregnancy because the job was just making me so miserable. I was so anxious. And I knew that if I didn't do it then, when was I going to do it? But the thing that I realised as I got better is that I was filling my life with loads of different things. So not only did I start a business, I trained to become a breastfeeding peer supporter. I started volunteering. I took on another job with another organisation, like a couple of hours a week, because I was trying to fill this big dark hole that was inside of me. So it wasn't the wisest thing. And I started with a client and I ghosted them, which I completely regret, and, you know, wasn't the right thing to do. So if I was in a better frame of mind, I probably wouldn't have started the business, but then I wouldn't be where I am now.
Well, but I think that's what the amazing thing is. So you ghosted the client and you're saying it wasn't the right thing to do, but you were in a space where it's not about right or wrong. It was really about you getting to the next stage. So if you ghosted the client, I wouldn't say that was the wrong thing to do. It's just where you were at that time. And although, it may not have been the best for your kind of mental well-being, it's brought you to this position. So sometimes things that don't necessarily seem like the right thing to do work out in the end, and clearly it's worked out for you. So well done. Well done to you for pursuing that. I started my my business when my daughter was like a year and a half. But similar to you, actually, I didn't have postnatal depression, but because I'd previously sold my business when my daughter was about 3 months old, I just filled up my time with loads of things. So I started an MBA when she was 3 months also. I was doing a 52 books in a year reading challenge. I sat on a board for a charity. I just started filling up my time with stuff. Because there is that kind of feeling sometimes when you have a baby, if you have a set career path that you're on, if you suddenly find that actually you're not that interested in it, or it doesn't bring you joy, or you can't proceed, there is kind of this, okay, what do I do now? And then you can find yourself just clutching at loads of different things. And I suppose for both of us, it's worked out. But I think for any moms that may be watching this, it's really important to know that you're not on your own. There's many of us that have been there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about knowing yourself and knowing where your limits are. Because throughout the years I've gone through spouts of depression, and I had this conversation earlier this week. When you've had an episode of depression, you know when it's coming and you know what's happening. When I got my postnatal depression, I didn't know what it was because it didn't manifest in traditional ways. When you think of postnatal depression, you often think, oh, can't bond with the baby, doesn't love the baby, whereas mine was the opposite. Tiana was my absolute world. I couldn't put her down. I wouldn't let anyone near her. But everything else around me just stopped working. And so I think I was grabbing at all these things to prove that I could still do things. But it's really about knowing your own mind, because it then got to the point where I was like, no, look, I'm still really not well and I need to maybe take a step back, which is what I did. I took my foot off the gas quite a bit. And then in the new year of 2019, so this was all 2018, and then in 2019, I kind of picked things up again. And within a few months, the business had really taken off. So me taking that step back and allowing myself to heal better played a big part in kind of moving forward when it came.
For sure. So you've made a point actually about the fact that you felt that because you've been working as a PA, it seemed like the obvious thing to do to start a PA company. One of the things that, I don't know if you've ever read the book The E-Myth by Michael E. Gerber, one of my favorite books, but one of the things that he talks about is this idea of, because you're good at something, you start a business in that thing. How did you manage to navigate the business element of it, separate from the delivery of the kind of PA services? How have you been able to manage that? And have you done any kind of additional research or worked with any mentors or coaches, or have you just found your feet naturally?
Yeah, that was one of my fears. Like I don't have business experience. I have experience helping other people run their businesses. I don't have my own business experience. So that was a big sticking point for me. How can I run a business when I don't know how to? Fortunately for me, I do like to read. So whilst I didn't take any courses, I wouldn't have been satisfied until I knew exactly what I needed to do to get the business going, until I had satisfied myself that I had enough money, until I had spreadsheets and documents and everything in place. I have to plan. I'm a planner. So it was through planning, seeking advice from people who were already doing it, joining communities that helped. And I've got an accountability partner. She's someone who's doing the same thing that I am. We're at the same stage in our lives, and we just kind of bounced off each other, and we're like, right, I want to do this. Is this the right thing? How did you set up your limited company? Did you put this address? What did you do? So we really just used each other as a bit of a step ladder, so that we could lift each other up into the right places.
I love that. I've not heard anybody say that they've necessarily taken that route before. And I think actually that when you start in business, it can be quite a lonely journey. And having somebody else that's doing, who is at the same stage as you, even if they're doing something different, I can imagine would be really useful in not only helping you, holding you accountable, but also keeping you company. I think that could have been well, obviously, don't let me put words in your mouth, but did you ever experience loneliness in that kind of first initial stages, and did that really help having that accountability part?
Yeah, I think if we, I don't want to dwell on the fact that I was struggling with my mental health, but that I wasn't really talking to her as much during that period, because I really did withdraw in those first 6 months of the business. And as soon as I came out of it and we started talking more, I felt so much more in control. And just having that person to run those ideas by, for both of us, I know that it made us both feel like we were doing the right thing. So I'd often send her a quick WhatsApp and be like, I don't know, what do you think about this? And she'd be like, oh my God, I was going to do exactly the same thing. It's a bit of validation. And I know that she will come to me and she'll be like, why didn't I come to you in the first place? And it's not because I know more than her or I'm more experienced. It's just having that second person there. So certainly building our business relationship together, I would say, although our businesses are separate, we do act in many ways like partners, and we've got some ideas going forward where we will be business partners. But having her there really did make a difference to that second 6 months of the business and beyond, to the first, where I was just like, no, I can't do this. What am I doing? It's a mistake.
And I think we've all been in that stage where, oh gosh, what am I doing? In terms of kind of some of the challenges, the business specific challenges, what were some of the key things that you really were like, actually, I don't like this, I don't want to do this? Was there any? I know for me, one of the key things has always been, my previous business was always finance. So just finance and sales, which are the two things that you need the most in a business, were the two things that I was most averse to. And I've learned, thankfully, to pay attention and I've got better at it. But were there any specific areas for you that you were just like, I'm not interested in?
Marketing myself, it's really hard. It's really hard to talk about myself and what I do. And in fact, one of the first questions you asked me was, tell you about the business, and I told you about my background. I haven't actually said what I do. So How can I sell myself if I don't tell people what I do? I'm really bad at social media because it takes, for me, I feel like it takes quite a lot of brain power to come up with something witty. Like, who wants to hear what a PA's got to say, really? Which is so like downplaying all my experience and all the things that I know. But I'm like, oh, it's sometimes coming out of this mindset of what people think a PA is still. And my clients, the range of work that I do for my clients goes from, you know, diary management, yeah, great, to being this massive sounding board and helping them with their strategies and their business plans. And I've tried to start blogging, and now has been a perfect time to start blogging because I've been able to tell people about the systems and the processes that they can use to make their businesses better during this lockdown craziness.
Your Zoom blogs were fantastic, by the way.
Thank you very much. So the things that I don't like are selling myself, because I just think, who wants to hear it? And I know that I have to sell myself as a person, like, I'm Leanne, I'm awesome. And that's always quite hard to say. I'm not a natural mathematician. I don't have a finance head. So that's been quite difficult. And at first I was like, I can do all that company's house stuff. I can do my accounts. And I was like, no, get an accountant. It's going to cost you some money, but for the peace of mind, I know that I could do it if I spent the time to learn about it, and I do want to learn about it, but it's not my expertise. That's why people hire me, because they're not the experts at the back end. So how can I expect, you know, people to hire me and be like, yeah, I need someone who's an expert in this field, when I'm not willing to hire the experts to help me? Yeah. So I took on an accountant. She's awesome. She helps me a lot. So finance and selling myself are definitely the bits that I don't enjoy. I like doing my actual job. That's what I love doing.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, because I totally agree about outsourcing. And if you're not good at, not even if you're not good at something, but if you don't have the time to really give it what you need, the time you need to give it, outsource. I'm not the greatest at being consistent on social media. So I spend a couple of days writing out posts for several months, and then I send it to somebody to design it and to schedule it for me. Then every other day, when I feel the kind of inspiration to do so, I will share my own stuff. And I'm quite good at stories. I can do the stories bit. Yeah. But the feed bit, I can't. And actually, I could, but it's going to take me that long, and I'm going to be so inconsistent with it. Why bother? Like, I'm just going to outsource it. And I think lots more small business owners need to be a little bit more strategic with their time and with their resources. And as you said, looking at where can you make time savings if you just pay to outsource it to somebody else. Yeah. I think you made a really good point. In terms of not selling yourself, this is something that so many of the women that I interview and generally even work with as clients have the same issue, that they don't necessarily feel comfortable shouting about what they're good at. And it's interesting, because you're saying who's interested in what a PA has to say. Well, as I just said, me, I definitely am, because at some point, I can't afford it right now, but at some point in the near future, I personally need it. Yeah. So any tips of how I can do elements of what you do better for myself before I can afford to hire somebody like yourself, then I think loads of people would want to hear that.
Yeah.
And please share. People want to hear what you've got to say. But the issue of not necessarily selling yourself, and obviously if I'm going too deep, you let me know. But where do you think that stems from? Because obviously you know that you're good at what you do. So what is it that prevents you from shouting about it, I suppose?
Yeah. When I won my award, it was a massive turning point in my life in terms of self-esteem and self-confidence. And before that, ever since I was a child, I was just really, really shy and not believing in myself. And it's really interesting. There are a few things that I think caused the switch to make me feel more confident in some ways, but a lot of it is just a mask. And I remember my first ever networking event where someone took me along and they tried to introduce me. Oh, and this is my colleague. And she wanted me to say my name, and I couldn't even say my own name. And I felt like such a little, like, what's wrong with you? You can't say your name? I went home and cried.
Oh.
And that was really difficult for me. I would hide from family members. I was so shy. I'd be that person where you'd go to your friend's house and there'd be that person sitting there just kind of looking like they're going to cry. That was me. And so when I started working in an office, and it's one of the reasons why I love doing what I do, because I don't have to be me. I am the receptionist. I'm the PA. I'm there to get things done. I'm there to help people. People don't have to see the real me. Whereas now we're here and I'm running my own business, I kind of have to give myself a bit more. And people do want to see me. They do want to see who they're hiring. They do want to know that we share the same values and the same kind of ways of working. When I was in my early 20s, I became a special constable with the Met Police. And that, you know, you can't not have confidence when you're out there trying to improve people's safety and help them. And absolutely, there's a feeling of power when you put on that uniform. So I've always tried to take that now with me in life. Like, my job is my uniform. It's my mask. It doesn't matter what's underneath it. Can I do what I say I'm going to do? Yes, I can. Boom, let's do it. That's my mask. That's my uniform. Let's go. And that really, really helps with my confidence as well, I think.
Going back to the fact that you won the award, you said you won in 2013. I also won my biggest award in 2013. And I was completely riddled with imposter syndrome. And I don't know how they presented the award to you, but I had to get up on this big stage at this huge event. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, somebody's going to shout out and say, fraud. She doesn't deserve it. I was absolutely terrified. And when they started doing the media write-ups and the kind of press circuit stuff afterwards, I was like, somebody is going to find out that it's just me. Did you experience anything similar? And how did you deal with it? Because I just literally, I didn't do any, it's the stupidest thing I've ever done, but I didn't do any of my own PR or anything. I just kind of retreated because I was just so overwhelmed with this fear of being caught out.
So I completely didn't expect to win. I'd been through a whole stage of processes, you know, interviews, presentations. Earlier in the day, I had to do a presentation in front of a panel interview. Had never done that before in my life. And then we had this gala dinner, and I was sat at a table, and I knew that someone on my table had won because I'd overheard someone say something. I never expected it to be me. And it was just, I tried to push my glass up my face then. And it was just and it was just the fact that they'd said something about the winner is on whatever table. So the whole time they were talking, I thought they were talking about someone else. And then they had quoted bits of my presentation. And it dawned on me, like, hang on, they're talking about me. And I think I realised after everybody else, because already the person that I was with was there, like, and I'm just... And then I was like, I've got to get up. And I got up, and I don't know where the words came from, but I gave a speech in front of a room of about 300 people, telling them that if I can do it, anyone could do it. And actually, that did give me some belief. But constantly, you know, we came on this call, and I was like, why would anyone want to hear what I've got to say? That is an ongoing theme in my head all the time. And I've written about it, and I did take advantage of all the PR. I said yes to everything. I said yes to speaking engagements. I went around the country. I spoke in Europe. I've written for magazines. I've been on the cover of my own industry magazines. And every time it happens, I feel amazement. But if I had allowed myself to not do these things because I didn't believe that I should be the person, well, who else should have been the person? Someone else who was going to win the award? Yeah, potentially. Maybe it would have been them, but it wasn't. It was me. And I had to embrace that. Otherwise, I'd forever regret it.
Yeah, like me.
I read that.
I really regret it. Yeah, no, it's a big regret. But I love that because I think people think that everybody has it together and you were out there and you were confident in yourself and you knew that everybody wants to hear about you. And actually, that may not be the case, but you push through anyway. And I think that's a really important takeaway for anybody watching or listening, that even if it feels uncomfortable, and especially when it feels uncomfortable, lean into it and don't kind of do what I did, which was run away and say, oh my gosh, they're going to find me. Thankfully, I've got over that. But yeah, I think that's fantastic advice, which is what you've done, is just to keep on going forward regardless of how you may feel.
Yeah, and the other thing was, all I can do now, all I could do then was talk about the things that I know, and that's me and my experiences. And for whatever reason, that resonated with people, and it wasn't intentional, but all I could do was talk about the goals that I'd set myself, the fears that I had. I went there and I told people I didn't think that I should be there, and I didn't believe in myself. And it was amazing how many people in the room felt the same way. And I've kept all the emails and I've kept all the messages that people would have with me and would send me after my talks, because it genuinely is a feeling of, God, I'm not alone. And now these people aren't alone either, because I've spoken about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and yeah, for those listening and watching who feel the same, you are not alone either. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that there's a lot of people that are going to resonate with that, because, as I said, I've spoken to so many people that are in, similar or have a similar feeling. And I love the fact that you kept all the emails and stuff. So one of the things that I share with my clients who may be dealing with imposter syndrome or low confidence is to keep a record of all of their testimonials and their feedback. And if possible, print it out, put it on the wall, read it every day, because actually, are these people lying? And I'm sure that they're not liars. And if you believe that they're not liars, then you need to believe that they're telling the truth, and that is who everybody sees you are, which means that is who you are. Yes. I think that's really important.
Yeah. And I've got and we had a session recently, and she said to me, why don't you trust yourself? Because as well as being my coach, she's also one of my clients. Mm-hmm. And she said, I trust you, so why don't you trust you? And I was like, that's a really good point. Why don't I trust me? If you do, you're the one paying me money, so why don't? And I wouldn't have gone to her as a coach if I didn't trust her. So it's kind of like this weird, if people are coming to me and they're sticking with me, it's one thing if we've all had those clients that haven't quite worked out, and that's fine. But most of my clients have been with me since I started taking this seriously, since spring last year. Most of my clients have been with me and stayed. Something's going right.
Yeah, you are. No, I love that. I love that a lot. So speaking about kind of on the journey, obviously you've mentioned you've had a coach. Has there been anyone that's really kind of inspired you, motivated you to do what you do? And doesn't necessarily have to be a famous person.
Yeah, there's this lady, her name is Vic Ratton, previously Vic Dara, and she, when I was going through my journey as a PA and all of that stuff, she was the person that I wanted to be like. She had it together, she was high profile, she was powerful, she was one of the biggest names, still is one of the biggest names in the PA industry. She quit her job to set up an association for PAs and EAs, and she fought against so many people who doubted her. Believe it or not, the PA industry can be quite catty, which you would not expect. There's a lot going on behind those scenes. And she kind of went against everyone who was like, no, you can't do that, you shouldn't do that. There's already PA associations, there's already all these organisations. What can you do better? People trying to sabotage her, and she's just grown and grown and grown and puts her all into everything. And she's been a wonderful, wonderful inspiration to me, and a person that I kind of like, she's my mentor, even though she didn't know it. So she's inspired me really, really along the way, so much so. And like I mentioned, my accountability partner, who's also called Leanne as well, I think just knowing that we're on those same paths, and when we check in, and I'm like, so how's your month going? And she'll be like, yeah, it's like this. I'm like, look, we're in exactly the same place. We're doing it. So I don't have famous inspirations. They're all great, but they're celebrities. They've got a million people to help them. I have people who are driven, who I see working hard, and who say yes to opportunities, and who have the same values as me, and they're the ones that inspire me. Yeah.
No, I like that. I think sometimes people have the tendency to look at the big stars as inspirations, and I think sometimes it is more important to look at the people around you or the people within your industry, because the celebrities are so far removed from where you're at this point. And really, essentially, that was one of the reasons I started doing this interview series, because to me, everyone that I interview, including yourself, is an inspiration, whether it's to me and all of the people that are watching, and for yourself, right? I think, keep clapping. Moving back to the PA kind of side specifically, if somebody is looking for a PA, as somebody that runs a PA organization, what kind of things would you say that you should be checking for? because I know there's a lot of small business owners that may be in the same position as me who in the near future want to hire a PA company. This is a great time for you to plug yours, of course, but don't necessarily know. I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking for other than, can you give me a testimonial, please?
Yeah, no, of course. So it can be really difficult because often people know they need help, they know they need support, but they don't know what with. So you want somebody who's going to come to you, they're going to listen to you, they're going to find out where your trouble points are, and they're going to make suggestions on how to help that. So they're not just going to go, yeah, I can do your diary. They're going to say, okay, Daniella, what are your struggle points? What is taking up all your time that you don't want to do? And then they're going to come to you with a plan for that. Well, okay, look, let's have a strategy session. Let's see where I can insert myself into your life and take these things off your plate and make them better. You know, a virtual assistant, a virtual PA doesn't necessarily have to have a website. They don't even really have to have a big social media following, but you want to know that they're going to bring value to whatever it is they're doing for you. I'm not always the most organized in my day-to-day life, but when it comes to my business and my clients, I have to be on it. So you want to be able to demonstrate that. I can show you documents that I've made. I can show you, you know, social media posts that I've created for people, although I don't do social. I hate it. Others and myself. But, you know, there are times where I'll be doing that. But you want to hear that they're passionate about what they're doing. It sounds really silly, but I don't think I'm passionate about admin. I think I'm passionate about helping people and helping people get to their goals. So that's, I think, what draws me. Like, you know, what are your goals? What do you want to achieve this year? All right, great. Let's do it. Let's work together. So one of my biggest clients in terms of time, she's someone who we've really pushed forward for her to reach her financial goals, her business goals. We sit down, we talk about it, and I know that I can go to her and be like, so have you reached out to this person then? Because you said that's what you were going to do. And she appreciates me on her back a little bit doing that. In fact, I know that that's what a lot of my clients like about me, because I'll be like, okay, great. So what are you going to do? If I'm here managing your diary and sorting out your YouTube channel and, I don't know, creating your documents for you, what are you doing? And if you're doing those things, why aren't you sending them to me? I do have to tell them off sometimes, a little bit.
Okay, so as I said, I can't afford it at this second, but I'm sold. Because you just described everything that I need from a peer.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And it varies. I don't have like necessarily a set list of duties. You can go to my website and it will tell you the things that I can do. I can research your travel for you. I can do your diary. But more than that, I think it's having someone constantly in the background who you can just offload to and just pass things to. I think with most of my clients, it becomes a bit of a partnership. They do what they're good at and I do what I'm good at, and they can get on with being a coach, being a yoga teacher, running their tech startup, running this, that and the other, their events company, and I will do the rest. I'll sort out the Zoom calls. Zoom is a massive thing at the moment and people aren't confident on it. Well, I'm confident on Zoom. So you turn up and I'll do the rest. You don't have to worry about letting people in. You don't have to worry about have they got the right information in the invite. I'll do all that for you. You just turn up and have the conversations you need to have.
Yeah, I love that. And that kind of goes nicely into my next question. Obviously, we can't avoid it at the moment. COVID-19 lockdown is impacting lots of people running businesses. Number one, how has it impacted you and your business specifically? And number two, from kind of a PA perspective, what are some of the, I would say, what is the one big piece of advice that you would give? I'm going to ask you for your three general pieces of advice afterwards, but what's your advice for small business owners as it pertains to navigating the whole lockdown and managing work?
Yeah, so I think now the shock has worn off of being in lockdown and businesses closing down. We're in this new phase of new normal, and I did lose a couple of clients. They went on pause. You know, I've got clients who lost their whole entire income overnight, which is terrifying for them. I'm fortunate that I wasn't in that position, so I'm still making money, which is great. But I guess the biggest learning point is, if people aren't digital, why aren't they digital? Because that same client who lost all her income overnight has now replaced it by being on a digital platform. And we did that in a matter of weeks. There are stories out there. There's a lady called Kira, Body by Kira, who again was a personal trainer, lost everything overnight. and then made 60k in a week when she set up a membership option with Instagram lives and Facebook lives. So I think business owners need to be ready to pivot into online forums if they're not already. They need to be talking to their clients, they need to be talking to their stakeholders and telling them that what they're doing to keep their business going. And of course, if you're in a hospitality type business, I'm not saying there's no way to do it. There is ways to do it. You know, if you're in a business that can suddenly start delivering fruit baskets and home deliveries and cakes that people want, if you can get the ingredients, then absolutely go down that route. If you're in the events business, since this happened, one of my clients, who's an event management company, took all of their events online. And then this Friday just gone, we hosted an online Zoom call for 250 people across the world, with some of the biggest event planners in the industry. So you have to be ready to try new things now. And don't worry if it doesn't feel like it's going to plan. There's a new normal, and as we slip into this new normal and get comfortable with it, you know, things will start to come together. And those first 2 weeks where businesses just went completely flatlined, they're now picking up again. Businesses, clients, people who I were talking to who were saying that they couldn't afford a PA have now realised that, okay, the world is still turning and we still need to make money, so they're coming back to me, and that's great. And I think that's what we need to understand. We had a couple of weeks where it felt like the sky completely fell in on us, and now we've got to rebuild. So how are you going to rebuild?
I think that's excellent advice. It's absolutely excellent advice. And I think that a lot of people did kind of just get hit with the shock and didn't know what to do, and are seeing now, actually, you're going to have to work out something to do, because this might last for quite some time. And are you just going to sit there with not making any money? I know for me, I don't want to accept that this is the new normal, because I want to get out of the house. But I was already doing pretty much everything I did digitally anyway. So the main impact on me has been some of the external businesses who maybe are not doing as well as they would like during this period, pausing. But generally, I've been okay. I think it's more the kind of get out of the house element that's stressing me. But I think particularly looking at ways to be more creative, and I love the example that you used with the lady who made 60k in a week. I wish I was that lady. I'm not, unfortunately. But yeah, I think too many people have kind of sat and just said, oh, I can't do it because people can't go outside. And actually, there's so much innovation happening and taking place that if you just sit here, you're going to end up really falling far behind. And actually, when this period hopefully comes to an end, you're going to be 10 steps behind everybody else. So I think it is really important to look at how can you pivot, and how can you move to either a digital online presence, or, as you said, can you do delivery kind of stuff, or can you go into a completely different industry? Some of the skills, some of your skills or your ways of doing things can be moved to another industry. So I think now is a great time to really consider, is there something new that you can do as well?
Yeah, and things aren't going to be the same when lockdown is lifted. You know, 6 months ago, 3 months ago, 2 months ago, who would have realised that a whole nation could work from home? How many people, how many women out there have been scared to ask their employees, or know that if they ask their employer if they can work from home, they're going to say no? And that was one of the reasons that I couldn't go back to my previous job, because I knew that they wouldn't allow me to go part-time, and they wouldn't allow me to work from home now and then. No, PAs must be in the office all the time. And I was just like, so here we are now, and everybody is working from home, apart unless you're a key worker or an essential worker, of course. But all of these businesses, they can't use this excuse that women can't work from home anymore, can't work part-time, because, well, we're doing it, it's happening. So when we come out of lockdown, people can't operate in the same way. Yeah,
I know that there must be some, like, thousands, maybe millions, because the whole world is kind of in a similar situation, of old grey men currently bashing their heads like, no, I'm gonna have to let them work from home now. Because it's so, to me, it's so ridiculous that this has been an issue for such a long period of time. And as much as I'm not happy with the situation, I love the fact that now these people are not going to have an excuse to stop women and men, actually. Because some men want more flexibility to spend time with family or whatever it is. And even if you're not a parent, maybe you just don't want to be in the office all day. And actually, for me, I know, for example, I am way more productive at home. In an office environment, I'm not going to get anything done because there's people talking and I need quiet. I don't want anybody around me.
Yeah.
So there may be people like me who actually, yeah, I'll come in a couple of times a week, but can I work from home, who weren't allowed to do that before? What is going to be the argument now? So I think there's going to be some very interesting conversation when we come out of this. Because as much as we say that there's no excuse for it now, I'm sure that some people will find
of course, absolutely,
to say no.
And the thing is, this is an even bigger test. This isn't just people working from home. We're working from home with our children, with our families, and we're still being productive.
Mm-hmm.
We're still being productive. So, but I guess that's a whole other conversation, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't want to. I can speak about this for hours.
What do you call it? Petition to the government.
Yeah, I'll stand in the street with my what do you call them? Not my pitchfork. That's not the
placard.
Placard. That's it. Not a pitchfork. Anyway, I don't want to keep up too much of your time. 3 pieces of advice that you would give to a woman who is sitting at home thinking, actually, I really want to start my business. What advice would you give to her?
So I'm a big believer in planning and setting goals, really clear, concrete goals. Not just I want to set my own business, but what do you want to do? How much money do you want to make? When are you going to do it by? And I think that I'm a big believer in, I never remember this phrase, but I believe in it so much. Fail to prepare, prepare to fail.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Got it right. And that was a massive thing for me, because if I didn't have in my head very clearly what I was going to do and when I was going to do it by, then I would have probably not managed to do it. Mm-hmm. So if you say you want to set up a business, plan for it. Read everything that you can, find your communities, network. So that would be my second piece of advice. Tell people what you're doing. So once you've planned it and you've set all your goals, tell people, because people aren't going to buy into your service if they don't know what you're doing. And they want to know, and people want you to win. Most people want you to win. Most people want you to succeed. So you tell them, look, I've decided that I'm going to start this business as a florist, and I've been training as a florist, and here are some of my things. And I guarantee they'll support you. I think it's rare that people don't support the ones that they love. So tell people what you're doing, tell everyone, shout about it and be proud of it. And I guess as a final piece of advice, yeah, it's going to be really, really hard. It's going to be late nights. It's going to be early mornings. It's going to be weekends. And as long as you prepare for yourself and you're willing to keep putting in that work, then it will come to fruition. It's not going to be tomorrow. It might take months. It might take a year. But just keep going. Keep believing in yourself. Believe in your idea. If you truly believe in your idea, then other people will believe in it too.
That's great advice.
8 different pieces of advice there.
No, it's great. The more the merrier. We love it. If people want to find out more about you, about your business, what platforms can they find you on?
So I'm on everything. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all under Leave It With Lava, Lava, and LinkedIn, Leanne Adu, Leeanne Adu, and my website, www.leaveitwithlava.com.
Thank you. I've just realised you didn't actually answer where the Leave It.
Oh, yes.
As a closing piece.
Yeah, so I'm really, really cheesy. And I would sign off my emails in the office. Someone would be like, oh, Leanne, can you do this? I'd be like, yeah, no problem. Leave It With Lee. And when I was thinking of a business name, I was like, oh, what can I call myself? I can't call myself Leave It With Lee. That no one's going to get it. It doesn't sound professional enough. And then I came up with Leanne Adu VA Solutions.
Yeah, I just got it.
Yeah, so we're leaving it with lava. We're still leaving it with Lee, and I like to say Leave It With Lee. It's so cheesy, but it's very much me.
But it works, because I didn't like it out until that exact second.
Leave it with Leanne Adu VA.
Well, Leanne, thank you. It's been a joy speaking to you. Thanks so much for being so open and honest and sharing your story with us. Really appreciate it, and wishing you every success with all of your future endeavors. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for watching, for listening. As usual, if there's anything that Leanne has said that has resonated with you, please write a comment. Please make sure that you like, that you share in your networks. And if you haven't already done so, And I'm sure this interview would have encouraged you to do so. But make sure you click that subscribe button or that follow button so that you never miss out when I release another interview. And if you're a woman in business and you would like to be interviewed for the She's the Boss series, drop me an email to daniella@she'sthebossintl.com. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again next week, Sunday at 8 p.m.